welcome to Badger Tough Inside the Circle. I'm assistant coach Craig Pokorny, here with Hall of Fame coach Alan Pokorny. We're here to talk to you weekly about what's going on in Bennington Wrestling. This week we'll recap the Badger duels, talk about the upcoming EMC duels, and chat about a few other things. Just a reminder, anybody who wants questions answered on the air, they can tweet us, email us, tell us in person. Just let us know, and we'll answer their questions on the air. Today's broadcast is sponsored by Midwest Designs. Check it out, midwestdesigns.org. I've had a few people asking about seeing the bags and getting maybe Gray on here to show them off. She didn't quite want to do it this week, so we'll try to see if we can't get her to show up just for a minute next week.
Yeah, I have to model it.
But you want to check them out leading up to state here. Don't want to wait till the last second. Just go to midwestdesigns.org and fill out the contact form to see what designs work for you, or if you want the one we've already shown on the website. Just a little, I guess we'll kick off right into a recap of the week. Short week of practices, a whopping 2 practices, or as the truck says, 2 practices.
Yeah, we had our moratorium with the holiday and everything, and much needed, really, because we had a lot of guys coming down with stuff, not just little bumps and bruises from wrestling and strains and that kind of thing, but also battling some illnesses, and in fact, our coaches too. I might be sucking on a few of these little throat lozenges in case you're wondering what's going on. Trying to keep my voice. Yesterday I didn't have much of a voice, and the day before even worse. So, in case you're wondering why I was standing back letting the guys coach, that's why. Because I was sucking on those things all day long, trying to hang on to it and be able to yell when I needed to, and worked out pretty good. I thought I started thinking that, hey, this is not a bad deal. It gave me some chances sometimes to even think and strategize more about some of the duels coming up and what was going on at the time too. So you might see some of that in the future. I don't know. We'll see. I certainly like sitting in a chair and being the main part of the action, but I don't have a problem to stand back and strategizing at times so who knows? We'll see how that works out. But anyhow, that's kind of what kind of helped us hopefully getting over some of that. I think some guys are starting to get over it. We still got a few guys that are hacking and stuff that are, with a few things going on. But I think we're on the mends there. And it sounds like our coaching staff is too.
Yeah, so. I definitely thought that on Friday, guys sounded a lot better than they did the week before, right before the break, because guys were really hacking away right before the break. And Friday, it was a lot quieter in the room as far as that went. So I think it helps us out that we got, number one, had that early in the season rather than late in the season, because it happens every year. So hopefully we got it all the way early.
Yeah, Blaze made the comment about how at Beatrice, when we all brought it in and talking to the kids, there's a lot of hacking and stuff, coughing, and not a surprise that coaches came down with it too. But again, it sounds like we're on the mends there, and good thing. But anyhow, practice go. 2 practices before we compete. I was very concerned about that. It's the shortest we've ever had. And before we competed after a break, next year we'll probably have at least a week. So that'll be a lot different than this year. It's just how the calendar works, and it just changes every year, and eventually get back to about 2 days, and then it'll switch again. But I was very pleased with how our guys came back after the break, the condition they were in. I think that shows that they're in pretty good shape overall. It doesn't mean we can't improve in some areas, but for the most part, I think our guys are in decent shape. If they can keep going at it and pushing hard, the rest of the season will be good.
Yeah, I thought there were a couple guys that start off a little sluggish in that first duel, maybe, because of the short turnaround from the break, but by the end of the day yesterday, it didn't seem like it had affected us that much once we got kicking into gear.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure what you're talking about in the first duel, but maybe you can.
I noticed a few.
You can emphasize on that. I was really. We'll talk about it, I guess, later. But
Well, we'll roll right into it now if you're ready.
well, sure, I guess so. Yeah, the first duel against Elkhorn South. They're a solid team. They're not as tough as they have been had some of their teams in the past, but they're still a decent team. They won the Ron Colley Invitational. I think that was a week before Christmas break. And being a Class A team, and everybody's aware of the athletes in their school. They have some good individuals, and so I was concerned about the duel, how it could go. Take a loss here or there that you don't expect, and all of a sudden you're losing the duel. But I thought we came out very well. We won all the matches we were expecting to. And then kind of the key, the duel's actually tied, I believe, coming back around. Because we started at 160, went up to 285, and come back to 106. And by the time we got to 106, I think we were still tied or very close to it. And still the duels could go any way. And I thought, the 106, 113, 120, we're going to be some key matches. And I was just hoping not to get pinned in these cases. But those guys really stepped up, and all three of them got wins. And those are very important things. And great to see, too, that guys like Hunter Anderson and Walker Benkin and Gavin all get a chance to contribute to the team in a positive way. Being young kids and freshmen in our team, and so those are really key. And I like what I'm seeing about with those guys. As far as improvement from the first tournaments of the year, especially a guy like Hunter Anderson. I'm thinking back when we were at Boys Town when he first stepped on the mat for the first time. Watching him wrestle, he was real tentative, and you could tell he's very inexperienced, and he still kind of is, but you could really see the confidence level in him raising and picking up the intensity, and not only that, and learning and doing some technique, so he's came a long ways. Walker's the same thing. He's came a long ways, and the confidence. If those guys get some confidence, they're going to be very good for us. And and Gavin, too. I know he picked up a couple forfeits, but he also got a big win against a senior.
Right.
When he wrestled Ashland. The kid's a senior, comes out, he's got hair on his body, his legs and arms, and man, the guy's mature, and we're just a little freshman that, and Gavin is just was really proud of how he just never quit. You just kept battling in there. And caught him in a situation once that got some back points and gave him more confidence and kept battling, and all of a sudden put him on his back and pinned him. And, that's the beauty of wrestling is that no matter the score, you got to wrestle for 6 minutes. If you don't, you can lose the match. And that was a case where, Gavin just, he never quit. And that guy let up for just a moment here or there, and Gavin took advantage of that. And the last time he did it, he pinned the guy. And so proud of how he fought all the way through. And that's what we want to see out of guys battling. And Hunter Anderson's another situation later on against Bellevue East. He was wrestling with state ranked number 1 in the state, and this kid is really good. I mean, this guy is probably ranked number 1 all class, and I know Hunter was kind of frustrated at the end because the guy gave him an extra push. Well, he gave him an extra push because the guy was frustrated because he didn't get a pin.
Right.
Hunter never quit, kept fighting, and the guy was trying to kind of rack up some points, I thought, unnecessarily. But as a kind of a joke we have, be careful about playing with your food. It's going to burn you, that's what happened. Instead of getting a pin for their team, which is 6 points, Hunter just kept fighting in there, and the guy couldn't get the pin at the end and ended up with a technical fall, but that saved us 1 team point. And in the end, it didn't make a difference, but that could have.
Right.
That was a duel I thought was going to be really tight, down to the wire. So really proud of those young guys for fighting in there. And so anyhow, as you talk about the Elkhorn South duel, a little sluggish. Maybe you saw something there. I don't know.
Yeah, Andy and I noticed it. It seemed like a lot of the guys were a little sluggish to start. I made a comment to him about it probably halfway through the duel, but then it didn't seem afterward. The next couple duels, I don't know if it was sluggish because of the short turnaround or guys still feeling a little bit under the weather or early start to the morning. I don't know for sure, but it definitely seemed like guys were a little bit sluggish to start, but they kicked it up afterward. So,
all right. Talking about the rest of the duels, I guess we can go through the duels. We had Crete next.
Crete's always really solid team. They've got some solid guys throughout.
They usually do, and I know they're missing 2 of their studs. That didn't help them, but we got some good wins at some important places. 182 is one of those places. They have a kid that's that Buzz wrestled and won the match. That kid's rated in one of the rankings, and the other. Yeah, in the NEWrestle.com, he's rated number 6. Buzz beat him. And I know he's being considered on Huskermat for a ranking. So, good quality win for Buzz. We wrestled very well overall. I believe we won like 74 to 6 or something like that. So, a good win for us. And, at Crete, they're usually solid, but again, like I said, they're missing a couple guys, but we also beat a couple of their tough kids too. Right. I think they're 220 pounders, a quality person too, and we just lined up real well and against them and beat some of their best kids, and then our kids are lesser experienced beat their lesser experienced kids, and so it worked out well for us. Excuse me. Then we got Ashland Greenwood. They always have some good kids too. They're a team that's a lot like Crete. You got some good individuals. They again at 182 was another tight match where Buzz was wrestling very well. The kid was a state qualifier last year and beat Ian to go to state. So quality kid. Buzz is winning pretty good and just. Got a little bit high on when he had him on his back, and the guy rolled through, and that dude's strong.
Yeah.
So it was very tight, and the kid ended up getting a pin. So that's just a lesson for Buzz to be careful about getting out of position, even when you got a guy on his back, and learn how to adjust. Sometimes you got to learn how to adjust when you got a guy on his back and he starts bridging through. You have to adjust to that and not get rolled through.
Yeah, it was a common thing we noticed this weekend that we'll work with the guys on is, getting their head up when they're in that situation when they got guys on their back. You don't need to see the pin. The ref can see the pin. We'll tell you what to do.
Right, yeah. That's in my notes. And speaking of notes, just on a sidetrack, I watching the Alabama-Oklahoma game, and there's old Nick Saban pulling out his pen and writing on a piece of paper, stuffing in his pocket, and like, gee, I got my little black book. I do that, so... Nick Saban's taking notes from me, I think, isn't it? Or
if that's the case, that's just like Jordan Burroughs learned his blast double from me.
Yeah.
So
all right, we can all dream. But anyhow, as far as Ashland goes, other than that, I've already mentioned Gavin's big win. So we talked a little bit about that. And then we went into duel with Wahoo. Wahoo is ranked number 2 in the state right now, and they end up winning the tournament over number 1 ranked Scott. So,
right.
they're a solid team. They do have a couple opens there, and I know that everybody at this time of year is battling like we are with either illnesses or injuries, and we got guys missing too, or at least in one case we have one guy missing, and possibly another that are out for injuries, and so we're all battling that kind of thing. But Wahoo is they're so tough with what they have. There's 7 or 8 guys on their team that are potential state medalists, and so in order to beat them, you're gonna have to beat some of those guys. Mm-hmm. We wrestled them pretty well. We were real tight up until about 145, I believe. We were still tied with them, and that was more than halfway through our duel. So I thought we were wrestling real well, but their strength is in those upper weights,
right?
And that they were just too strong for us, and they end up pulling away with the win. And again, I mean, talking about Buzz was in another match with a kid from Wahoo that was ranked, mm-hmm. And Buzz was winning that match also. And something happened during that match that got him in trouble and on his back, and ended up getting pinned there. But those are some learning experiences. Buzz is a guy that has come a long ways. Mm-hmm. Even from last year to this year, just from where he was at last year to this year is unbelievable to me. How far he's came. But sometimes with that learning and that growth, there's experiences you need to have. And
yeah, you still end up in situations that get you in trouble and get you beat.
Right. And some guys who wrestle since they've been like 5 or whatever, they have those earlier in their careers that they figure those things out. But when you're in high school and you're still learning those things, they happen. Yep. And hopefully these things happen now, and that when we get down to when it really matters at districts and state, Buzzer's winning those matches. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was actually beating those guys when he got caught and pinned. So I think that's a big positive sign for him that, he learns from that. When it comes down to the state tournament, he's going to come home with some hardware. So good experiences for him. Would like to win it, but sometimes you need to go through that to get better. We end up losing that duel. We did have we were competitive with them. Like I says, we were tied still late in the duel, and they pulled away from us and beat us. But it's quality team, and that's the way it goes. But then the last duel against Bellevue East, coming into the tournament, I thought they had the potential to be one of the favorites to win the duel. Mm-hmm. I thought they had the potential to beat Scott, and they actually did give Scott a pretty good duel.
Yeah, it came down to one match, basically.
Right, it came down to one match. In fact, I think weren't they winning that match, and they got caught and pinned, and
got a takedown in the last 5 seconds.
Oh, that's right, takedown, and the guy won from Scott. Got a takedown in the last 5 seconds.
That would otherwise put it into criteria, and who knows at that point.
Right, they would have tied Scott, and then went to criteria, and who knows what would have happened as far as who would have won the duel. So, and then I thought they also had a good chance of beating Wahoo. Mm-hmm. Just how they line up and everything. So, they're a team that could have won that tournament, I think, and I still think that they're a team that could have won that tournament. So for us to win that duel, I thought was tremendous, and we beat them pretty solid too. We beat them by more than the number 1 team in the state did, Scott, and I thought that was the best we wrestled all day and maybe all year. As a team, and really we started off, ironically, with one of our new kids, and at 285, we had Jake Steyer had a chance to step in, with Aiden being injured and Chevy being out, and we needed some help. So I talked to him before about bumping up to 285. I thought he had a good chance of getting a win there, and he's still a little nervous yet going out, but I could see that confidence going every time, that less and less nervous, and he went out there and did a great job and ended up getting a pin and really helped us out a lot. That's 12 points right there if he doesn't go out and wrestle. You know? And then we had Hunter Thompson was kind of fighting something, wasn't feeling good, and even talking before the duel about whether he can wrestle or not. And it's getting late, and I said, Hunter, I know you're not feeling well, but you let me know if you can go. We really need you.
Yeah,
and
at that point, the duel was still close enough that Central could come back and win it.
Yeah,
Or East.
Yeah.
That'll be East Central.
But
Purple singlets.
yeah, but and Hunter said, yeah, I'll go, and so he went out there and ended up getting a pin and a win. So again, another 12 points. I mean, think about that. That's 24 points out of two freshmen that about a year and a half ago never wrestled a day in their life. Young guys stepping up and helping us against a top 10 team in Class A, and so that was tremendous. And then the rest of the guys took care of business and did real well. And something you mentioned, I mentioned, we beat a number 8 team in Class A, and anybody listening, don't take any offense to this in any way. I'm kind of walking on thin ice here, but and it's not meant to be that way. It was more of a compliment to our guys than anything, But think about it. When's the last time Bennington has beaten a Class A top 10 ranked team in any sport? We've done it in wrestling a few times. I don't think we did last year, but I think the year before we'd done it, and before that. And what would happen if any other sport, whether it's football, volleyball, baseball, basketball, anything, they beat a top 10 team, it would be celebrated almost like a state championship that, hey, Bennington beat a top 10 Class A school.
Kids would be storming the field or the court or...
Yeah, I mean, it's a great accomplishment. And I guess my point is that, it's a great accomplishment for our kids. And another part is that, that's kind of expected for us. We kind of expected, there was no social media big blast about it. It was, I tweeted out our results, and the only thing it got was a retweet, amongst others, and that was the only thing out there. So it was like if, just another day.
Yep.
And part of me likes that, and part of me likes to see, more recognition, but I think most of me likes that we expect that as a program, and probably the school expects that, hey, they beat a Class A team, it was ranked 8, okay. That's where our program is at, and that's where I want our program to be expecting to win those things. And, in most years, that's pretty normal, but I think with our experience level this year, I think it's a huge accomplishment, and the kids should be recognized for that, and I'll certainly let them know about that in practice and everything, and we can continue on having high expectations out of our program every year, and that's why we do well, and some of the things we do, doesn't always get recognized because it's expected.
Right.
And there's things that, I don't want to be, I don't know how you put it, celebrated too much. Yeah, I guess a good example is, if we're state runners up in wrestling a few years ago, they're asking if I wanted to fire trucks to bring us into town. It's like, no, I mean, we're happy. We're glad we did this. We accomplished something good, but we didn't win state.
Yeah, you only get that if you win state.
Yeah, in wrestling, that's kind of our expectations. So, anyhow, so hopefully no one is offended by that. It's not intended that way. And I know how social media and emails and all that stuff, people can take things so wrong in many ways. And so I'm hoping that doesn't happen in this case. But this is, we just meant mostly that recognize our guys for what they did and appreciate it.
Yep.
All right.
So the varsity took a third in the tournament overall. Went 4-1 on the day. One thing with the weather that happened over the break, Wayne did not get any practices, so they weren't able to make it out.
Not only that, they were still dealing with snow when they decided.
In. So they, in order to keep everybody getting duels, we had our JV step in as a team and basically competed against all the varsity teams on the other pool. So just a little touch on how they did. They had a tough duel to start off the day with Scott, number one on. So even though our varsity didn't see Scott, our JV did. So they had a tough one there.
And we scored on them, too.
Yep.
Logan Burmester got a win, got a pin. But yeah, go on. I'll let you finish what you were saying.
Our JV had Bellevue East. And then in the third round, they had a really close duel with Ralston, almost pulling off a win there. And then had Fairbury in their last one of the pool play. And then the cross pools, they had a close one with Cretan, almost pulled off a win there. So
yeah, lost by 1 point to Crete.
Lost by 1 to Crete, lost by 3 to Ralston. So our JV did really well, and especially even having holes in the lineup because we didn't have all the weights filled there with them. So JV did really well, considering it was all varsity competition they were up against. So that was good to see.
Right, and I wanted to mention that too. Once we got done with the varsity part, that I'm really proud of our JV guys going out and competing, and it was a great experience for those guys. We don't plan on adding that to our normal schedule on the Badger duels, but we're going to fill it with varsity teams every year. But if something comes up like this, yes, we'll put them in as an extra team because we need to have even teams. We need to have either 6, 8, or 10. We can't have odd numbers. It just works out better for scheduling and giving everybody duels, for it. So, in the future, if we end up with only 9 teams, let's say one team drops out, we might have to do that. I mean, we'll try to find another team first, but we'll put them in there. But anyhow, these guys, I was real proud, and it was also a great opportunity for them to get varsity competition, in varsity experience, because we got some guys on there that can compete for varsity.
Right.
There's
some close wrestle-offs going on in the room.
Right, and those wrestle-offs may. The results of the wrestle-offs may change over time, back and forth, and who knows. Mm-hmm. So some of those guys might be wrestling varsity by the time district's coming around. You don't know. Mm-hmm. So we need to give them the experience and the opportunity. And it's nothing against the current varsity guys. We try helping everybody equally and everybody get better. And in the end, the best guys are out there, and hopefully everybody's, the guys who maybe don't win the varsity spot, that they're supportive of everything and everything works out in the end. Great experience for those guys. We had several guys even do very well. Isaac Jacobs ended up going 4-1. His only loss was to a Scott kid. It's a very solid kid. And I thought Isaac wrestled him pretty well. And then Isaac went on and won some big matches over some pretty good wrestlers. That was good to see.
Right.
He ends up 4-1. We also had Nick Law went 3-2, and one thing with Nick was he was fighting some illnesses too yesterday. He wasn't feeling good, and he wrestled through that and ended up only losing 2 matches against 2 very good kids. So great experience for him to wrestle, this varsity competition because, he's another young kid who, never wrestled high school before this year. And even though he's a sophomore, he wrestled in middle school, but he skipped last year and this year's coming out again. That, he's a guy I think that, if he can keep working hard and by the time he's a senior, he'll be very good for us. And then we had a few other guys. The other guy with the winning record was Logan Burmester, and Logan's got an excellent chance at winning the varsity spot too. His first wrestle off was very close. Excuse me. All this talking my voice is starting to lose it again, Craig. But we'll try getting through this. But Logan, the second wrestle off they're supposed to have, we had a little injury happen during the match, and then all of a sudden, either Hunter or Logan were sick, and we just couldn't get it together and get the second wrestle off done. But new challenge matches come next week, and he'll have that opportunity next week to wrestle for the varsity spot. And but Logan's one of those guys that, that's potential for us to make the varsity team. Sometime this year, if not next week, sometime later in the year. And that's nothing against Hunter. Both those guys, Hunter's definitely the future. He has very little wrestling experience background. So he's winning just on ability and he's in battles on ability and heart and everything like that. And like I said, during the Bellevue East, he had a big win that really propelled our team and helped our team. But Logan's kind of an experienced guy, a little bit more experience, and probably has a little better technique that I think. And I thought the early wrestle off, he was a little rusty or sloppy in some of his stuff. That he cleans that up, and technique's usually going to win over any kind of experience or talent if executed right. And so. It's great to give him that mat time against varsity competition and a chance to do well. So, looking for great things for him. And then some of these other freshmen, had Carter up there getting some matches, Keaton also, and, all these other guys, Tristan and Joe, and even some of these younger, like Evan and Dawson, all got some mat time against varsity competition. And some of those guys, I hope they stick with it. I know some of they're taking some lumps, but you could see the ability in it, and they just got to be patient. It just takes time to learn and figure it out. And those guys got some wins too. So, whether or not, hopefully they're satisfied with where they're at and want to continue growing and getting better. But really glad to see that those guys got an opportunity to wrestle, in this tournament. Like I said, we're not going to make it a permanent thing, but, great chance at this because of the weather.
Right.
So anyhow, that's pretty much, I don't know if there's anything else you got on the Badger Duels. I thought great weekend overall, because we got varsity and JV experience and had success in both areas, in my opinion.
Yep. Before we go any further, just a reminder, the show today is sponsored by Midwest Designs, midwestdesigns.org. Check it out. There should be a little website. There we go. URL at the video there. So you can check it out and see if you want some clear bags. We keep talking about putting other stuff up there. Just so busy with wrestling season, don't get a chance to really find the time to put them up there. But, yep, check it out. Don't wait till the last minute if you're planning on getting some for state. Because, like I said, we're already busy enough as it is. If we have 20 people wanting a bag the week of state, it's going to be hard to get them in. So order early if you're considering getting one. So moving on, we're this next coming week. We got a few more practices, a good 4 solid practices this week coming up. But with the holiday, with the new year, Monday and Tuesday going at 10 in the morning, and then back to our normal schedule Wednesday and Thursday at 3:30.
Yeah. We try considering the kids that give them the afternoons and evenings free. Although a lot of kids like to sleep in till about noon or later. So they'll walk in at 10 o'clock, their hair all over the place, and they'll tease them. They just woke up, and they'll say, yeah, I did. I say, well, I got a half day's work in. How about, So anyhow, we do try going in the mornings when we can. I do want to get back to a normal type of a schedule, even though they're on break. And that's why we start going at 3:30 after that, before the EMC duels. But just remind the kids at 10 o'clock tomorrow, 10 o'clock on New Year's Day. Hopefully guys aren't out too late. We'll have a talk about that tomorrow night, about proper things they should be doing. And, on that New Year's Eve night, what they should and shouldn't do. So we still go at 10 a.m. I know a lot of people are up pretty late, but we'll go. And then back Thursday and Friday, Wednesday, Thursday, afternoon practices again. And yeah, it's good to get 4 good practices together. Tomorrow we'll review a lot of things from yesterday, things we can work on and improve on, and then we'll get a chance to install more things as we go. Yeah, we talk about our offense being installed and working on that. We're getting close to having everything I want to have installed, that we can continue to develop what we got. You can never have everything. Every wrestling move out there, it's not possible. But we do have a certain amount of offense. We like to have the kids know and understand what's going on, and we're not quite there yet, but we're getting there. I looked ahead and we're getting close. So that's kind of this week. Good chance to catch up on a little of that. And then EMC duels on Friday and Saturday.
Yep. Starting the afternoon on Friday, wrestling starts at 4.
Yeah, I did get the information sheet. I don't remember off the top of my head. I believe it is 4 o'clock. I'll have to double check that. And if it's different than what our schedules say, I'll make sure that the email goes out to parents at least, and so everybody's aware of that. Sometimes things are on the schedule, and then with wrestling, they might change slightly, and a half hour there, here or there, and so we got to make sure that people are aware of that, and the EMC conference, very, very tough conference in wrestling and all sports.
Right.
Another good test for us. We've been going through a lot these last couple weeks, and it's not over yet.
Right.
And it won't be. We schedule tough competition by design, and I think we'll talk a little bit about that when we talk about wild card points.
Right.
We were briefly talking about it even before the show. We trying to think about some of the favorites out there. You got Plattsmouth is probably the highest ranked team right now. You got Gretna, who last couple years has dominated the conference, and they did have a lot of graduations last year, but they're still pretty solid. They're going to be a tough one to win. Mm-hmm. And every school out there. Waverly's highly ranked too. Waverly's right there. Blair's right up there. To me, I'm thinking probably Blair's the favorite in the conference. And then you've got Waverly and Plattsmouth probably, and Gretna probably pretty close to each other. Mm-hmm. And then you got us. On paper and experience wise, we're behind those guys and maybe even Norris. We might be down towards the bottom when you talk about on paper with experience wise.
Yep.
It's you're looking forward to the good competition, but it could be a rough weekend if we're not careful.
Hopefully, guys wrestle like they did this weekend and really step it up.
Right, this weekend and really at the Fracas too.
Mm-hmm.
The guys wrestled well because we finished ahead of Waverly there. But that doesn't always mean anything. We finished ahead of Beatrice also at the Fracas, and then a few days later they get the win.
Yep, and one team may match up differently than the other. It's the nuances and beauty of duels versus individual tournaments is that it can be a completely different game. If you see each other or don't see each other, who beats, what team beats who, it can be a lot different just based on how you match up.
Right, and even one match here or there during a duel can change things drastically. And we talk about 12-point swings, where you might be getting pinned and all of a sudden you turn around and pin the other guy.
Yep.
That's a 12-point swing. It could be in your favor, it could go against you. So, anyhow, it's conference is going to be, as tough or tougher than ever. But we look forward to that and competing in it. That's why we do it. Our guys shouldn't be afraid of that. They've been through, the tough competition already. So I think mentally they're ready. Physically, we're still working.
Yep.
We're on the rise. Just how far we are. So we'll find out this weekend, I guess.
Yep.
Like we say every week.
Well, this past weekend, and this coming weekend have a big impact on where we land in the state duels wild card points. As of Friday, before the Badger duels, we were sitting about 15th at 5-5, with 42.7 points. We talked about at some point during the year that it seemed like 45 points might be the cutoff between making it and not. Right now, it's sitting at 44.
I said 44 to 45.
Okay, well, there you go. So, a couple teams sitting at 44. Your top 8 are Sydney, Plattsmouth, Northwest, Alliance, Blair, Columbus, Lakeview, Scott, and Holdridge. So, and Scott's one of those teams that always solid, but they're sitting right on that 44-point bubble, you could call it. And then we see Plattsmouth and Blair in the top 8 right now, and we're going to see them this weekend. So, it's going to be tough this weekend. And like you talked about before, and we talked about before the show, we have a pretty strong strength of schedule, and I think it's showing a little bit in the points that even though we're 500, we're sitting, right behind some teams that have 4-1, 13-2, high percentage records, but we're right there with them in the points, just how strong our schedule is. And we were talking about how that's going to play to our favor, in our favor in years to come, in the long run.
Yeah, and that's something I mentioned a long time ago, too, that when doing our schedule, I didn't change anything for this year as far as duels go for state qualifying for the state dual tournament, simply because I wanted to see how it goes, because I like having a strong schedule. That's what makes us better.
It's always played in our favor before going into the individual districts. We'd have guys with lower seeds beating higher seeds come district time. So now it's the same thing in playing in our favor in duels.
Right. It makes the individuals better, and individuals better make the team better. Mm-hmm. And so, that's one thing I want to be careful about, not taking away good competition to try making the state duels, or you kind of defeat the purpose.
Right.
And some teams might do that, and okay, you qualify the state duels every year, but you go and get your butt waxed, that's probably not necessarily the best thing for your team.
Right.
And so the best thing is develop a strong team, and so far, like you say, we're 5-5, and we're in the top 15, and that's out of 48. That's that's not when you say top 15, that's pretty darn good.
Yep.
When you're talking 48 schools, we're in the top third, and that's 5-5. We'll probably our points will go up this week. I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't figure it out what they are from this, and those probably Monday morning if everything's working on this NSAA site. It wasn't working the last week or so over Christmas break. Kind of saw some wacky numbers there. But it looks like they got it fixed. So we'll see kind of how that this weekend helps us, because I know we had some good wins over some quality teams, and so it should help us. And I don't have any unrealistic beliefs that we have a real good chance of qualifying for state duels with the inexperience we got. Would I like to? Yes. Are we trying to? Yes. But we're going to have a perfect season pretty much from here on out to be able to get there. And we've had a good season and probably done a little better than I expected, considering what we have as far as experience level, which shows for the kids in a very positive way that they're working hard and doing the right things and getting better. I think long term, as we discussed earlier, that that strength of schedules, even though we're going to take some losses, the points wise, we're going to be up there in contention. And if we make the state duels, we're going to have a darn good team, and we're going to make some noise there. And we've done that the last few years. Out of the last 5 years, we've gotten 3 trophies. So, we plan on getting more, and unfortunately the 3 trophies are 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Now I told our guys we got to complete the set and get first.
Yep.
So next time we go, it's going to be first place.
Yep. We don't just go to qualify; we go to bring home hardware.
So anyhow, that's my take on the wild card points issue. I don't know if you have any more to add to that.
Nope. Haven't really received any new questions that we haven't already addressed.
I'll have to peek here while we're talking. I got my phone was buzzing in here. I could feel it. Maybe it doesn't apply to this, but I just want to double check in case somebody's out there contact us. Okay. Nope, not this in particular. So unless you tweet it, I'm not like Craig on Twitter as much. I post our stuff, but he posts half the stuff, and I post the other half. And
nothing on Twitter right now. So, any other topics you want to talk about before we wrap things up?
No, I think we covered this week pretty well, and what's coming up, and again, that's going to be an interesting weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Could be really tough, could be really good for us. So we'll see.
Yep.
Either way, it's going to be hard, but that's what we do it. Why we do it, to get better.
Yep. So join us next week where we'll recap the EMC duels, and we'll have a preview of 3 duels for that next week between Syracuse, Tacoma, and Logan Magnolia. So that'll be next week, same time, 2:00 on Sundays. Or, as always, you can listen to the podcast afterward. We host it on Anchor, and it gets spread out to all the other places. So if you like to listen on iTunes or Spotify or Google Podcasts or any of the other places, you can listen in after the show while scooping snow or doing other work during the day. So once again, join us next week, and we'll see you then.